Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Seasonal Tokens Podcast, where Polar interviews people so you can do more investing and less gambling.
Nice. So honestly, I think that I want to read the book immediately, even though I consider myself a seasonal investor in crypto. Somehow I'm sure that there are a lot of things that I'm missing because of my experience, and also from what I hear, there are definitely things that I haven't even used in crypto, but your words make me feel even more motivated of what's coming than what has happened so far. So I'm really eager this book to become available so people can buy it and find out finally the truth about crypto, because there are a lot of myths out there and people are afraid of investing in crypto just because of them. So I definitely think that your book is another important step in the right direction for main adoption, right?
Yeah, I think it's a really important gateway towards what's next. There's a lot of books out there on blockchain and crypto. I don't want to compete with those. There's no point in doing so. They all talk about the same thing. They don't talk about what comes after. Like, the technology is here. So what's the technology going to do? What's it going to lead to? That's a very important question. And if you're an investor, this is an especially important question in terms of understanding where your investment is going to go or what you can invest in now to prepare for the future. And the future right now, to be honest, is very uncertain. It's very scary what's happening with inflation rates and swap lines and all these countries and massive amounts of debt. There's nothing stable economically about the world right now. People are at war in 2022. You wouldn't think people would be at war, but they are. There are countries going under. There are first world countries that, never had that issue before. Companies laying off as much as they were probably back in the recession in the US in 2007, 2008. There's a lot of nasty things that are occurring and a lot of scary things that could happen going forward. We don't know what the stability of the world is going to look like. It's going to hurt a lot of people and a lot of businesses and a lot of investors. But this is an opportunity to learn and to educate and to understand what the future will look like and how to get there. And I want people to be able to do it through blockchain. I think that it is a huge component technologically of what's going to build us a better future. So in order to get there, I think my book is going to be a very helpful gateway. It's going to be the first step in that process. My newsletter is going to expand on this on a weekly basis and in far more detail than the book will. But the book is like kind of your way into that door. And then once you're in the door, the newsletter is going to take it the distance so that you have something recurringly. It makes me excited too. And I wrote the damn thing. I already want to read the physical copy when it comes out because I want to see and feel the experience that you guys, I'm sure, will have when you read it. Myself, I've read it over 1 million times and I've edited it, but I want to hold the physical book in hands and read it myself. So, if the author's excited to read his own book, then it's going to be something pretty interesting.
Yeah, and when I know you firsthand, I'm sure that it will be very, very interesting. So I think that I have a little bit hard question for you. So my question for you is, from all the things that you have written in the book, which part you love the most?
That's a good question. I think I'm most interested to see what people think about the section on CBDCs and then also the section on stablecoins. I think those are two very underrated things right now that are going to really change society. And central bank digital currencies are the financial system's way of saying, okay, we couldn't beat crypto, so now we're going to join it. But it's very scary because imagine today's dollar being completely digital. The level of privacy that goes out the door, the security that you have, that the government isn't going to seize it at some point or instantly garnish it and take it away, or a creditor is not going to have more access to it, or there's just so many problems that can arise from that. And, they already did this in China and, I expect it to happen in China, but in the US, in a capitalistic society, it's a bit more scary having your money that more closely held by the government and by the Federal Reserve. You feel less sovereignty. You feel less power over your value. And that's not something you want. That's bad for economics. And I don't know if that's going to have a good effect. Yeah, it might be easier for remittance and commerce and retail shopping and things like that. But I mean, is it really necessary? Because you can do that with crypto. And I think it's their way of holding on to that power that they've had for so long. All these sovereign funds and oligarchs and, the people behind the scene pulling all the strings in the financial world. It's a way for them to stay relevant because tech has threatened the financial world so much to make it go irrelevant. And when you have someone holding on for dear life, they create, I think, bad use cases. And I think CBDCs are a bad use case. I think they're dangerous. So I talk about it a lot. I talk about what that could mean, the good and the bad, the benefits, the downfalls, and then how crypto can kind of bat back against that, like how Bitcoin is like anti-banking. It's anti-central banking and the Federal Reserve, and how Bitcoin still stands as like anti-CBDC as well. So there's interesting contrast there that I think people need to know and understand because it will affect the future economy that we will live in. And then stablecoins as well are very important. I think having on-ramps into this space and being able to move money around and have more liquidity is very important. And what governments decide to do in terms of regulating stablecoins could be very detrimental to the space, as well as how they're built and developed. Like we saw the incident with Terra Luna, for example. They had an algorithmic stablecoin that was holding a tremendous amount of Bitcoin instead of cash reserves or cash equivalents. And that led to a devastating downfall for their stablecoin and for their project overall, and has created a lot of concern across other traditional stablecoins like Tether and USDC. And none of that stuff is good. There's a lot of things around stablecoins that are helpful and they're very important, but they're also been around since pretty much the very beginning. And they're going to get regulated. They're going to get put behind red tape at some point. And we need to acknowledge that. And we need to be able to advocate, fight for, and lobby for them to exist in this space, or at least to have freedom to use them. It's a big fear of mine that the US government bans something like Tether, or that in the EU, they ban the equivalent, or something along those lines occurs, because it will hurt on-ramps and off-ramps in the space and funding and your ability to stay in crypto without going into cash, which is really handy, especially if you're a trader and investor. So there's a lot of good sections in the book, trust me, but I think those two, for me in particular, I'm most passionate about, because I think they're very critical right now during this period of time. And I just don't think most people think about it. Everyone wants to talk about NFTs. Everyone wants to talk about DeFi. Everyone wants to talk about DAOs, and they're all important. I just think at this point in time that we live in, CBDCs and stablecoins are a little overlooked, and I think are a little bit more critical and more easily fallible than we expect.
Okay, I said that I'm really optimistic about the future, but now I think that I'm also scared. Because honestly, I'm also like everybody else. I haven't thought much about the stable coins. I just accept them as part of the reality, and also the same about the CBDC coins. But you're definitely bringing an important point of like what is going to happen with these stable coins, especially when this case with Terra Luna happened. Like everyone has been talking about the thing that stable coins will be more and more regulated, so things like that won't happen. But we all know that all these things and discussions are going on so the governments can have more power and more control over the stable coins, which is definitely not good, and also one of the things that crypto is fighting against. So I hope that in the book we'll find, let's say, hopes and ideas how to deal if things go very bad with stablecoins.
Yeah, the book is going to introduce you to this idea. It's going to introduce you to the problem, and it's going to highlight that there are solutions. And in the newsletter, it's going to start talking about that stuff more in depth and helping you understand how to get around it, how to find ways to be successful in those sectors, those small niches, how to take advantage of what's going to happen, how to profit, and how to be a successful investor in a lot of ways like I have found to be in the space. So again, the book is going to be really, really important as a door that needs to be opened for the first time. But it will be the newsletter that will hold probably the most value in the end, because it's going to go into these subjects a lot more in detail.
Yeah.